All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. So tonight we're talking about the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, we're less than a month away from the NFL draft. The Steelers have their first round pick. They've got a second round pick. They have a couple of third round picks thanks to the Kenny Pickett trade, and they've got a few others later on in the draft. The Steelers are a really talented team with recent additions of guys like Russell Wilson, Justin Fields, Patrick Queen, Deshaun Elliott, Dante Jackson, Dean Lowry. Like, they've had a phenomenal offseason. Also, Arthur Smith, your brand new offensive coordinator. But after the Stephon Diggs trade today to the Houston Texans, I pulled up the Steelers depth chart. And the wide receiver position, folks, and once again, I know we're less than a month away from the draft, and they're, whether it's the first round, second round, third round, whether it's all three of those damn rounds, Pittsburgh's taking a wide receiver, and they're going to take one before the fourth round. I'm looking at this depth chart, and I'm like, that's not going to work. It's not going to work to me. So that's what we're going to talk about in tonight's video. But before we do, if you guys enjoy it, be sure to hit that like button, hit that sub button for daily NFL content. Steelers fans, love you guys. As always, appreciate all the love you show on this channel so much. If you could try and get this video to 500 likes, that would mean the absolute world to me. Also, real quick, we heard Justin Fields' jersey number, I believe, is number 2. So I'm going to definitely pick that up because you guys blessed that one video. So thank you guys so much for all the support. Anyways, yeah, Russell Wilson's great. Justin Fields is great. And I still have Najee Harris, and I still have Jalen Warren, and obviously I've got star wide receiver George Pickens. But that depth chart, man, and I'm, by the way, Calvin Austin III, I'm still very hopeful for. Wide receiver number 2, Van Jefferson. And then your slot wide receiver, Quez Watkins. Folks, it's just not going to work. That's just not going to work. That's not going to win you a Super Bowl. Maybe it's going to get you to the playoffs because that defense on paper and with the eye test and statistics and whatever metric you want to use, their defense is literally loaded and littered with talent. We'll talk about that at the end of the video. But Brad Spielberger of PFF thinks the Steelers may have a bottom 5 wide receiver room in the NFL as it currently stands. And I 100% agree with him. Now, obviously, Jalen Warren's a great pass catcher. Pat Freiermuth had a very terrible, underutilized season last year with Matt Canada at the helm. But yeah, I'm hopeful for guys like Quez Watkins and Van Jefferson and especially Calvin Austin. But they need more. And I was reading a mock draft, and they had, a wide receiver in the 3rd round. They had a wide receiver in the 5th round. And I'm still just thinking to myself, it just kind of feels their moves. Not that a wide receiver in the rookie in the 3rd round can't contribute. He definitely can. But if you want to win a playoff game and you want to win the division and you want to win ultimately a Super Bowl, you need a little bit more. And just seeing what Stephon Diggs and what that trade compensation looked like, it was like, they need a wide receiver. So we have Brandon Aiyuk, and we've talked about Brandon Aiyuk in a video before with the Pittsburgh Steelers. They've been connected to him and it intensified when San Francisco 49ers wide receiver Brandon Aiyuk sparked speculation on when he sent a message to Steelers head coach Mike Tomlin on Twitter stating, Coach Tomlin, they saying we twins. What you think? Now, the Steelers were interested in Tyler Boyd, but they couldn't agree on compensation. It was reported yesterday that they offered him a 2-year contract in the range of $10 million, and that's not going to get the job done. So Tyler Boyd and the Steelers looks like it's completely done. There's some guys out there in the free agent market that we'll talk about in just a second. But I know what my Steelers fans watching this video are going to say about Brandon Aiyuk, because Bleacher Report dropped an article on trade compensation, or like just a bunch of different trades and, why these teams should trade for these guys. One of them was Brandon Aiyuk to the Pittsburgh Steelers. And it was like, their 1st round pick number 20, I believe. And then, like a 3rd round pick and a 4th round pick, something like that. I like it, and I do think if San Francisco hasn't said they're going to trade Brandon Aiyuk, but I think if you actually have the possibility and the ability to trade for Brandon Aiyuk, a star wide receiver in this league, or I should say a rising star wide receiver in this league, you have to pull the trigger. I mean, you just have to. Brandon Aiyuk is on his way to stardom. He had a phenomenal last season. He's been phenomenal and consistent and reliable in every single season in his brief NFL career. You just got to make a move like that. But, when I really dig deep, and by the way, I do want to say real quick, I have this quote here. This is from Kabali and he said this on 93.7 The Fan. I've been told that they don't want to take a center in the first round. Now, that changes if everything's gone and that's still the best guy available there, but they'd much rather get their center in the second round or potentially the third round. I mean, if you're giving up, it doesn't matter. Center Zach Frazier of West Virginia and Jackson Power Johnson of Oregon have been highly linked to the Steelers since January. They cut Mason Cole to free up about $4.5 million. I've seen speculation that they could re-sign Mason Cole, but my bottom line is this. If Pittsburgh's not going with the center in the first round, I'd actually look into Brian Thomas Jr. With LSU in the first round. Like, I think you got to go big or you got to go home. And you went big picking up Russell Wilson and Justin Fields. You need to put together a great season here because you finally have your quarterback, you finally have your offensive coordinator, and you need to surround your QB with weapons. And you need to give these guys weapons, and not that, George Pickens and Calvin Austin and Jalen Warren and, all these guys can't contribute. They can. But if you want to win a Super Bowl, folks, if you want to even just win a playoff game, something Pittsburgh hasn't done in way too long, if a move like this presents itself, I highly suggest hopping on it immediately. They got Stephon Diggs for a stale bag of freaking chips, maybe a half stale bag of chips, but nobody in 2 years is going to be, or next year's draft's going to be thinking, damn, I really wish we had that second round pick after they just made the AFC Championship game and maybe even won the Super Bowl. Now, real quick on Mason Cole, he was horrible last year, so I don't think he's going to be back in a Pittsburgh Steelers jersey. He led all centers with 37 pressures allowed in 18 games. He had a 32.4 PFF pass blocking grade. That was the second lowest among centers on the entire season. He finds himself as just one of 3 centers to post a below 32.4 marker dating all the way back to 2010. So my point is this. They need help at the wide receiver spot, and whether it's in the first round of the draft or the third round and the 5th round, or they trade for Brandon Aiyuk, whatever it's going to be, they need to bolster it. I'm excited about Quez Watkins. I'm excited about Van Jefferson. I'm excited about Calvin Austin next year in his full second season, but they need more help, man. And when we look at remaining free agents, there are some guys that really do pop my eye. I think DJ Chark would be phenomenal on the Pittsburgh Steelers. I love his speed. He started 51 games or 51 games in his NFL career, 23 touchdowns in his first 6 seasons. The issue with DJ Chark is he's never really had a good quality quarterback. And the 1 year he did 2 years ago with Jared Goff and the Detroit Lions, he was injured. So I think DJ Chark would be an absolute steal at this point in free agency. You got MVS, my former Green Bay Packers wide receiver. He caught a touchdown in the Super Bowl this past season. You could get a little bit deeper with guys like Michael Thomas and Hunter Renfrow, but both of those two have issues with Michael Thomas hasn't been healthy for a full season since Drew Brees was a quarterback in the NFL. So Jarvis Landry, Michael Thomas, Hunter Renfrow, these are more riskier, older options. So I would go DJ Chark or MVS. Michael Gallup, certainly an option. We talked about that in our last video, but I do think Brandon Aiyuk on Pittsburgh would literally be perfect. So let me know what you guys are thinking. Hit that like button, hit that sub button. Apologize, I was a little under the weather. This was a little bit of a shaky video, but I appreciate you guys nonetheless. We'll see you soon. But let me know what you're thinking about the wide receiver room down